So when you're navigating around a document, there are a few things you need to be aware of. So if I just go to the second page and zoom in a little bit, we'll cover how to zoom in a moment. Now, if I want to pan around, move around a document, I have a hand tool here. If I use the hand tool, I can click and drag to move around in a zoomed in page or even between pages. The shortcut for that, which is much more convenient, is if you are working zoomed in and you hold the space bar, it's going to give you access to that hand tool temporarily. As soon as I release the space bar, it switches me back to whatever tool I was on. Now, the only time this is a problem is if I'm editing text. So if I have my type tool and I'm editing some text here, and I press the space bar, of course, it's going to enter spaces. So in a case like this, the first step is press escape, which will take you out of text editing mode, then spacebar, and then you can pan around. Okay, so that's panning around. Then we have zooming in and out. So it's pretty easy, and then more than one way of doing it. So I'm not showing you every single way of zooming in and out, and you figure out which way works for you. This is my preferred way. So Control or Command plus to zoom in, minus to zoom out. If you have something selected, so if I select, let's say, that little bit of text and I press Control or Command plus, I zoom into that selection. To fit a page is Control or Command 0 to fit the entire page. If you want to fit a spread, a double page spread, it is Alt Control 0 or Option Command 0. Now these are single pages, these are not double page spreads, so that's not going to work here. But that would be the shortcut for fitting a spread in other words, two pages that are together. All right, so that is navigating. Then we have something called power zoom, which is pretty handy. So if I'm zoomed in somewhere and I hold down H and then click and hold my left mouse button, it will zoom out and it will show me a red box where I was zoomed in. And I can move that red box and then release, and it will zoom into the same zoom level that I was before, but in a different area. So I'll do that again, H, and then click and hold to zoom out. Now you can let go of H, and you're just zoomed out because I'm continuing to hold my left mouse button. And then I can take my arrow keys and I can press up to make the zoom area bigger or down to make the zoom area smaller. And then when I release, it will zoom back into that area. So it takes a little bit of practice, but it's actually a very handy feature when you're navigating quickly around a document and you want to be more productive. All right, so that's navigating a document. Next, we're going to look at page navigation. How do we go from page to page? So the first and least efficient way is scrolling. So I'm just using my scroll bar here to scroll, or I can use my mouse wheel or my trackpad to scroll through the document. Okay, so that's pretty easy, but not very efficient. The second way is using your Pages panel. So if I go to my Pages panel, you can see there all of my pages are. If I double click on a page, it's going to take me to that page very quickly. The next way is using your page shuttle at the bottom here. So you can see with your page shuttle, you can click and choose a page, or you can use next page, previous page, or all the way to the end of the document, all the way to the beginning of the document. Okay, there are some shortcuts here. So to go to the next page is Shift Page Down. And on the MacBook or MacBook Air, that's Shift Function Down or Up arrow. But on a normal Windows keyboard would be Shift Page Down or Page Up to go to previous page. So next page, previous page. If you want to just go back to a previous view, so not necessarily the previous page, but the previous page you were on, it is Control Page Up or Page Down, and that will take you to wherever you were last, kind of like a website going back and forward. And then finally, really useful one is Control or Command J, which allows you to actually type in or choose a particular page here and go to that. So that's navigating your pages. fairly basic and straightforward. And then finally, in this short video, we're looking at viewing modes and quality. So viewing modes can be found down here. And you'll see that we have normal, preview, bleed, slug, and presentation. So we are in normal view at the moment, which means we see all of our margins, columns, and bounding boxes. If I press W, that will take me to preview mode. I can also go to my menu at the top here and say View, Screen Mode, and I can choose Preview. So W will toggle you between Preview mode and Normal mode. If I want to see my bleed, I would go down here and choose Bleed, which will show me Preview mode with Bleed. There's no shortcut for that, you have to choose it. And then for Slug, it's going to show me Preview mode with the slug at the bottom. Now presentation mode, let me go back to normal, is Shift W. So Shift W will take you into presentation mode where the entire user interface is hidden and you can preview the document. This is kind of used to see what your work looks like without all the complications of a user interface. To get out of that could either be Escape or Shift W again. And finally, we have view quality. So when InDesign is working, it's constantly trying to work efficiently using your system resources. So if you are lacking system resources in terms of a GPU or available RAM, it's going to degrade your photos to save system resources. And if you go to your view menu, you'll see that under display performance, you have fast display, typical display, and high quality display. Mine is automatically set to high quality display because InDesign has determined that my system can handle that. But remember that if you've got a 500-page document and you've got photos on every page, InDesign might say, well, that's too much. Let's go to typical display or even fast display. So let's switch to fast. So display performance, fast display, and you can see our images are just wireframe boxes now. So it actually doesn't even show the images. That might be fine if you're wanting to work very quickly and you've finished working with images or you haven't put the images in yet. And then typical display is going to show your images fairly good, but you might notice a slight degradation in the images. It's hard to tell with these images because they are already fairly blown up and pixelated, so you might not notice it. But I have placed this Illustrator file at the end here, and I'm going to zoom in to show you what typical display looks like. So you can see that it looks very chunky and pixelated. That is InDesign trying to save resources because this is quite a big file. So if I switch from typical to high quality display, you'll see that it cleans it up and it looks much better. If it still looks bad, then it is bad. Then you need to find a better image. But just be aware, especially with Illustrator files, that they can look terrible when you place them in InDesign unless you're in high quality display. You can also set your display options on an object level. So a specific object you might want to display at high quality, but maybe not everything. But that's basically all the things to do with navigating, with page navigation and viewing modes and screen modes.